Well, good morning and welcome to our live video today. My name is Peter Frank. I am the Senior Manager of Concordia Technology Solutions, and we've got a fun video for you today. I've got Pastor Daniel Ross here with me, and we're going to be talking about video and whether or not that's the new norm. And this is going to be a little bit different than what we've done before, and that it'll be more of a debate than anything else. But let's make sure we got Daniel on. Daniel, are you there?
I'm here, and I got to tell you, I've wrestled with alligators, I've tussled with the whale, I've done handcuff lightning and throw thunder in jail. I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
How long did it take you to memorize all that?
Longer than I would like to admit.
All right, very good. Well, thank you very much for joining me, and I thank you for this idea for this discussion today, because this was all on you. A while back, several weeks now, at the beginning of the year, we posted a blog that I wrote about the 7 technology trends that churches should be paying attention to. And as we were talking, Daniel and I were talking about upcoming blog posts that he could write, he wanted to challenge me on one of my points. And I was like, well, if you're going to challenge me, then we at least got to have the opportunity to go back and forth and discuss this. And so that's what today is. So the 7 tech trends, the number one thing I put on there, the first thing was video will be the norm for consuming content. And Daniel, you seem to not think so, huh?
No, I disagree with that. The trends that I have seen, video will not be, it will be a part of a strategy of producing content, and it will still be a lot of content consumed, but it won't be the norm.
All right. Well,
I think we're going to debate why that is.
Absolutely. So you brought your boxing gloves as props. I brought something a little bit bigger today. This is our, let me get it on camera. There we go, our boxing bell. So let's go ahead and get this started. That is loud. All right.
Well, that's what you're off of.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully our editorial folks who are nearby don't get too disturbed. So let's get started. You've got a post that we shared on Tuesday where you go into detail, and you've got a number of things that I think are great to discuss. But let's just dive right in. I'll give you the first stab at winning this debate of whether video will be the new norm or not.
I think it really comes down to what is the medium that you're going to be using the video on or through, which is somewhat meta because you're talking about the medium for using a medium of form of communication. So when you talk about social media, obviously visuals are the best, whether that's a picture or a video, those get shared a lot more than just text posts. But a vast majority of the internet is not social media, it's websites, and websites, videos, consumption on websites is nowhere near what people prefer when it comes to video versus text. In other words, text is still the preferred way to consume information on a website. And those trends are holding pretty steady on that. Video's made some inroads, but I mean, let me ask you this, Peter. You ever go to a website and you get overjoyed when the autoplay video starts?
The autoplay video, now that's a different discussion here. You know, video and autoplay video, that's something that's valuable and something that's just annoying. But no, I don't. Although I did see one church website which was just fascinating how they did this. They utilized a green screen, and you're on the website, and out from the corner walks the pastor, completely just on screen with no background, and he welcomes you to their website, and that definitely caught my eye. But no, autoplay is something different. But video on a website, I think, is a key way, and video as whole, in the whole category, I think shows us that authenticity of being real. And I think there's a big difference between live video and edited video, recorded and edited video, which is what you see on websites, and you don't get that whole authenticity when you are in a polished edited video. But videos on a website, I think, have a lot of merit. Obviously, I'm very pro video, and we're doing this on live video too, so I'm trying to stack the odds against you here. Video on a
But
website
why
are
are we
good
doing the video, Peter? Why are we doing the video?
to drive people back to the blog post. Which, by the way, I shared the link in our comments for your blog post, and I forgot to mention this at the beginning. If you've got questions or if you want to jump on a side and agree with one of us, please go ahead and put that in the comments. And I think it'll be fun to add some reactions as we go through. If you have some, if you agree with one of our points, we'll call that out there too. So for those of you who are watching live. All right, so your point, videos on a website, autoplay is bad. Let's talk about videos on social media, because like you said before, there's a place for video and in a certain medium. When you are on social media, Daniel, do you consume video more than any other kind of content? And I'm guessing you do, but I want to hear what you have to say about that.
I would say that I'm more likely to stop if there's a video. Then just kind of keep on scrolling through. I mean, the nice thing about social media is that you usually don't get like these huge walls of text, and so reading can just be really, really quick. And so what's going to stop and grab your attention is going to be like a great visual graphic or a video, especially, and I talk about this in the post, videos that can be run on silent, and so they have captions or text describing either what people are saying or kind of what's going on. Those are the ones that are watched the most on social media. Now, it is true that video is one of the highest or the highest shared on social media, but when you put something on social media, it's in hopes that people will watch it, not just pass it on, because if people are just passing on and not watching it, well, then honestly, what's the point of the video? You want people to consume the content that is created.
Yep, and I think that is a very fascinating trend with video, is that so much is played without the audio. And you see that, and it's more than just closed captioning, like full text across the screen that really goes into it. So one of the reasons why I think video will be the new norm is because of the algorithms on social media. And we say social media in the broad sense. I'm really focused on Facebook because that's the majority of the market, and Instagram, which is part of Facebook as well. But as the algorithms are pushing more users to video, and we've seen that already over the last couple of years, that makes it harder to even find content that is not video. But the other part of it, and this is what they call the Facebook apocalypse, the Facebook Armageddon, or whatever horror story you want to call it, is this idea of reducing organic views on content shared by posts or by pages. Their posts are not going to get those organic views, but what they're focused on is that engagement, and video is far more likely to have engagement than any other post. So my debate here, my theory is that as more people are being driven to video, it's more of a passive engagement on the news feed. You have to actually seek out the non-video content if you want to consume that. So what are your thoughts on that, and that idea that you're just not even going to be able to find non-video content as easily as it was in the past?
I think Facebook is smart enough to realize not to get to that point. I mean, Facebook is, by and large at this point, it's social media for your average user, but it's an advertising platform for the company. And so they are looking for ways to make, in particular, organizations not get as much reach organically, but have to go through and boost a post or run ads. And so when you talk about the Facebook video apocalypse, if you will, that's going to cull out a lot of people that just don't want to go through that hassle of having to pay every time to get people to see their video, even their own, like my church's website page, right? Or not website page, Facebook page. Those algorithms that Facebook is kind of creating. I mean, it even limits what our members who have liked our page and follow it, they don't see every post that we put on, whether it's text, video, or a picture. And if Facebook is really playing with fire, in my opinion. And so if they got to that point, we've already seen Twitter kind of taking off. Snapchat is taking off, which Snapchat is pictures or videos. by and large. But they just came out with an update that everybody hates, apparently. So I don't know what's going to happen to Snapchat. It will be interesting to see kind of how this changes over time, and they kind of step back from that edge.
Yeah, I'm curious as well because they talk about it as the end goal is to benefit the user, and so they're focused on what are users looking for from an engagement standpoint, most of all. And in fact, I think the phrase that they used was meaningful experiences. And what the industry trends are showing is that you can't have as many meaningful experiences with text posts or image posts as well as you can with a video post. Now, the key is that video post does have to be engaging and create that meaningful experience. And the theory is that video provides that more than anything else. So a live video like we're doing today provides that meaningful experience of being able to jump in on a conversation that is happening live on social media, on Facebook. And so that provides a more meaningful experience. That's the direction they're headed towards. But that pay-to-pay part that you mentioned there is a key part of it as well, is that churches are not going to be able to afford what bigger brands can. And so in that broad scheme of things, churches' posts are going to be less and less in the newsfeed, just like your experience as well. Now, let's take go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you somewhat kind of highlighted the advantage of video versus text, and I lost audio on my end. Can you hear me?
Nope. Yes. Sorry about that. I think that was on my...
Yeah, you roundabout, you kind of touched the difference between video and text and social media and website. And that is, text is better for conveying information than video in a lot of sense, by the simple fact that like if you're reading about how to do something, you kind of process that. You don't have to necessarily pause the video every time, do that step. Like I'll watch videos and read on like how to do car repairs and things like that. Sure. I don't know how many times like I have to go back, rewind, pause, because they're like, okay, you do this and then you do this. And I was like, okay, yeah, but it took you 30 seconds to do that. This is my first time doing it. It's taking me 5 minutes to do this. So
wait, are you saying that it shouldn't take me an hour to change the light bulb in my car? Because the guy in the video did it in 5 minutes.
I'm saying that if you do it professionally, it shouldn't take you an hour if you have a lot of practice. And so, meaningful engagement is not necessarily information conveyance.
Well, let me throw
and that's kind of some of the difference here. But
let me throw a softball on that note for you. That I know you can hit this one out. What about millennials? Don't they prefer video over text? Don't they prefer to watch things than read things?
No, they don't, and it's a huge misconception. And I don't know why. The evidence has been out there for a while, and there's a link in the blog post about it. And by and large, it's been done for studies of news consumption. So millennials online, how do they prefer to consume the news? And that is through text and not video. Now, I'm not saying that they're reading like 14 pages Atlantic articles or things like that, but if they're not watching videos of the news, they're wanting to read about the news, which is, like I said, kind of counter to everything that everybody says, but it's what the evidence bears out. It's what the studies have shown over and over again. Older people actually prefer to watch the news more than read it, which is really interesting.
Well, and I wonder too if that goes back to the quote unquote older people are the ones who are not growing up in the old newspaper era as much as the evening news era. Older anymore those generations have had TV their whole life, and so it leads to this passive consumption of sitting on the couch watching the news, more so than I think millennials actively seeking out information that because it's so accessible, they've grown up with that ability to search for the things they want to know. And so, like you said, going in and reading the news is more common for them because it is that active experience of finding exactly what they want, that tailored content. In this case, they're the ones tailoring it to what they desire. Whereas I think that the more TV generation is used to that, essentially the feed of video, except it's coming through on their TV. Do you think that might be part of why millennials are different than the older generations?
I think it is. I think it is. I also think it's the platforms that they tend to engage in. Millennials have gravitated more towards Twitter now than Facebook. Hi, Mom, love you. But when our parents and grandparents started getting on Facebook, we stopped. And so Twitter, I mean, Twitter had Vine, which was highly popular, but they shut down Vine. And so when you look at where millennials get their news, there's a huge section that get their news, or at least the start of it, on Twitter, which is, now it's 280 characters. Not a lot of audio and video there. People are reading, maybe there's links to stories, things like that. There might be links to video. But by and large, they've gravitated away from Facebook, which is a much more visual social media, towards Twitter, which is a written social media.
That's true. And now I would counter that with going to YouTube. I know for me at least, and I know I can't extrapolate that to all millennials. For me, the news that I watch is often clips of TV shows on YouTube. And it's very rare for me to sit down and watch a full TV show anymore. And some of that could be just my family situation. Having two preschoolers at home limits the TV time of the things that I want to watch. Paw Patrol and PJ Masks are very common in my household. Not so much
Paw
the Daily
Patrol's
Show.
not real news.
Well, it does have all of the law enforcement in there. I know you got kids at home. You're probably just as familiar with those as I am. But no, watching some of the news, it's not going to be your traditional 10 o'clock news that I watch. It's the things like the Daily Show and John Oliver and all of that, and always taking it with a grain of salt, knowing that it's the commentary on the news and not necessarily the news itself, but being able to watch those in those small segments as opposed to watching a full hour show is more convenient for me in my schedule. And I've noticed that I tend to watch more of those on Facebook than ever before because it just happens to come up on my news feed and it jogs my memory. Now, Twitter, like you mentioned, that is predominantly more news than people showing pictures of their family and friends and that kind of thing. So I wonder if the content type on Twitter just lends itself more to news than Facebook, or is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. And to your point about YouTube, I think you also have to realize here, we're talking about generalities and not specific individuals, obviously. And YouTube is a video medium. I mean, it's YouTube off of, I think it's a play on the, the old tubes and the TVs, things like that. But when you look at the demographics also, and you look at millennials, and when you look at YouTube in particular, it tends to be predominantly males that watch YouTube videos and consume YouTube videos and produce and things like that, whereas female millennials have a much higher representation on social media like Tumblr, which tends to, you have, Tumblr's a mixed media like Facebook, but you get a lot more written posts in that. And so I would be really interested to see kind of the breakdown of, and I have not seen a study, so if somebody knows of one, if they want to drop that in the links, things like that, of differences of how maybe males and females like to consume the news, especially of younger generations. So and yeah, like I mentioned in the post, I watch random YouTube videos all the time. I watched like 50 minutes worth of YouTube videos on how to set up fish tanks just this past week because I don't know what was wrong with ours, but so going back, starting from scratch on the fish tank. So there are, I mean, I'm not saying video isn't important, and I'm just saying that it will be part of a content strategy, not the norm. And just pivoting a little bit here, kind of going back to the website thing, is videos are great, but, and I mentioned this, you know, Fox Sports, for your sports junkies out there, Fox Sports, they had a really intense effort, it would be over a year ago now, to actually make their website profitable. And they did it with their writers. And then they announced to their writers in January that in the middle of the summer, they're going video only. And they fired like almost all their journalists. So they went video only in the summer. So this is a website. This is not social media. This is a website. Video only. And then in the late summer, early fall part, when normal sports websites traffics go up because you have the NFL and you have college football about to start, theirs was down 88% on the year.
Staggering, 88%.
And so it's like, and maybe because it's the personalities that they have on there. I mean, they're not personalities people. I'm not going to say anything here, Eighth Commandment and all, but it's just it's astounding it's a kind of a great test case in this of what happens if you go predominantly or all video on a place where people are looking to consume information, not have meaningful experiences like social media. And so video can be very effective on websites, but it will be a much smaller part than on social media, is my point. And that's why I think, like, I took issue when you said the norm, you know, definite article norm. And I was like, look, I think it's going to be hugely popular and important, but I don't think it's going to be the norm, Peter. That was my...
I just need 51% to be the norm. Like, that's the majority. But let's go down that path some more. Let's talk about content type. So when do you think, what type of content, and let's put it back into just churches right now. When do you think video is most appropriate for churches from a content standpoint, and where should that reside? Primarily, how would you recommend using video in the church?
I think kind of just short videos. You don't want anything too long. I think it would be they're really good to kind of create that warm, welcoming atmosphere, because you're going to see a face on there. You're going to hopefully hear people talking or hear people singing. So when, like, a lot of churches have like an I'm new button, as part of it is, under the tabs or whatever about worship. And so, making sure you're not violating any copyright laws here with music or things like that. But if you can have kind of snippets taken from worship services and say, here is kind of our like a taste of what you would experience here, or having like I said, a welcome video either done by a pastor, staff member, or even just members of the congregation, even to just a short informational, like kind of a video walk through the building. So you'll come into the parking lot. Here's our parking lot, and you want to make sure it's short, and maybe not, if you can avoid jump cuts, that would probably be better. If you could do like some speed up things, and there you get on the production side of video. But okay, you come in the doors, and this way is the restroom, this way is the sanctuary, here's the nursery, and you'll see a friendly face. So some short snippets, but you don't want to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to have a 15-minute video where the pastor is just going to sit down and talk about the worship service and what you can expect, because that's too much information. You want the videos to kind of have one point, so people don't have to sit there and back up and try to find, okay, was it at 125 or was it 233 that they were talking about this in the video? Especially if you think about, okay, if I'm looking at this information, I'm new, I'm looking at churches in the area, and I want to show this to a spouse, all right, and we had a specific question, and if it's just wrapped up with 5 other specific questions in a video, that's going to be a little bit more challenging to share that information.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point too about the length of video. And on the one hand, I think that works to my advantage that videos can be long and hard to find the information because it just takes up more of your time and gets me closer to that 51%. But the key is that the attention goes down, the engagement goes down the longer the video is, and studies continue to show that. Whereas the advantage that you have in some kind of written form is that you can jump to that information. Search engines can point you to that information that you're looking for, and you get that right away. And so when you're talking about information and not shared meaningful experiences, that's where video really breaks down and loses the battle of being the best type of medium for relaying that information. So I'll give you that one. Now, talk to me about how that fits into your content strategy for communicating on an ongoing basis. So websites are what we talked about here is that introducing your congregation or introducing potential visitors to your congregation. What about in that ongoing communication of events, of worship schedule, of special occasions in your church? Where do you think video plays a role in that, and where should it be avoided?
For the amount of time for kind of a quality production, I don't know if it'd be effective for necessarily weekly announcements unless you have a larger team at your church kind of able to assist in all that, because I've seen and heard of churches doing kind of videotaped weekly announcements. I think, though, and we talked about this last time I was on a video several weeks ago when we were kind of going through the Lent things, doing a short kind of devotional thoughts, like what a classmate of mine did, Reverend Donald Antor, and he goes through Instagram. And so I think video is going to be more effective for a church, not necessarily in outreach, but in the kind of continual community of the church. So it's more of effective, I guess, with people who are already members is what I would say. So things of that nature. Now you can create videos with special for special events, either promoting special events, obviously, or even like if you had like a 60th worship anniversary, or a lot of people probably have some sort of recordings of their 500th anniversary of the Reformation, and so kind of putting those on the website and just kind of you can have those under kind of the who we are type section, because again it goes back to showing the people engaged in things, which is as much as you can give a website personality is a good thing, and that's honestly that is the advantage that video has over written word, and I kind of mentioned that personality doesn't it's much harder to make personality come across in written word, which is why sarcasm does not come through in text and emails, and why like PR people are always like, do not reply or do whatever sarcastic, like just say what you mean. It saves you so much trouble, whereas video, you get the visual cues, the facial cues, things like that. But again, that goes to video's really good for a meaningful experience, whereas text is better for information relay.
Yep. Very good. Well, we're wrapping up here. We're just about at that half-hour mark. The debate is whether or not video will be the new norm. I don't know if I'm convinced that it's not going to be the norm, but I think we're both in agreement that it has its place, and the written word has its place, and both of them going into that comprehensive, complete communication strategy. And I think it's important for communicators, church workers as a whole, to understand the value of each one of these mediums and how to use it. And I also think it's important to test these things as you go through and see what works for your congregation. Look at the analytics after the fact, and convey it convey the same information in a couple different mediums. See what's more effective, because what works for your audience might be different than what works for a different another church's audience, and understanding the culture and the community of your people and how they prefer to receive information is going to be a key part of that. But I think we both agree video is not going away. I think churches need to learn how to leverage it as much as possible, because it's a lot more difficult than the written word, which we're so comfortable with for having done it for so many years. So good. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up and give a quick preview of what we're doing next week?
I do. I have one last closing thought, and here's my final argument, Peter. I will be convinced that video will become the norm when the entire Bible is done in video, verbatim, not artistic license here, and not just written.
Well, I'll let you do some of the ones in Numbers and Leviticus and that, if you'd like to volunteer for that. But no, I agree. Although it is an audio form, it wouldn't be that too much difficult to put it more in a talking head. But no, I think that's what the fun part of making these predictions is. You can go a little bit farther, and when we review it at the end of the year, say, okay, did we reach that mark, or did we at least move in that direction? And I'm very confident we're going to be moving in that direction, that video is still going to grow in terms of time spent on consumption, and just the overall percentage of content consumed will be in video as it becomes more and more accessible and widespread. But maybe it won't be the norm quite yet. So good. Well, Daniel, thank you very much for joining me. I don't think we have any questions today, but I did want to give a preview of next week. You mentioned Reverend Don Antor, and I've got Don scheduled to come on live with me next Thursday at the same time. We're going to be talking through how he uses Instagram and Snapchat in his ministry with youth, and how he leverages these digital tools in a way that, for me, certainly was not heard of before, especially Snapchat, and how well he utilizes that. And so I think he's done a bang-up job of really figuring out how to leverage these without dedicating too much time and energy to it, but reaching that specific audience in the right way. So please tune in next week. Thursday, again, we'll be posting the schedule probably early on Monday or Tuesday, and we'll share that with everybody. But thanks again, Daniel. I know you've got your boxing gloves there.
Give me a thumbs up if you think I won.
There you go. And give me a laugh then if you think I won, because I've had a lot of fun doing this, and reading your posts for the first time just made me laugh. Nobody really challenges me like that, so I appreciate that. Good. Well, thank you again for joining me, Daniel. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll be back next week with some more ways to leverage technology in your ministry. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.